Well, Microsoft actually listens and they hear the pain that customers are having. And this pain with how to do two conditions in SUMIF is one that finally reached the top levels of the Excel development team. And they said, we have to come up with some solution for this. And so in Excel 2007, Microsoft has given us 3 new functions that allow us to specifically solve this problem. Now, it's really kind of subtle, although you have to appreciate the way that they named this. The new function, instead of being called SUMIF, is called SUMIFs, plural. They added an S to the end because we can have multiple if conditions in the function. We're going to talk about SUMIFs right now. They've also added a new function called COUNTIFs to match the COUNTIF function, and 2 brand new functions, the AVERAGEIF function and the AVERAGEIFs function. Now between you and me, I think AVERAGEIF is really kind of crazy because I could always do a SUMIF divided by a COUNTIF. I could get the average, but I guess I figured that was too hard for some people, so they added AVERAGEIF and AVERAGEIFs. Let's figure out how to solve the problem of conditionally summing based on more than one condition using the brand new SUMIFs function. I'll type the equal sign, start to type SUMIFs, open parentheses, and Excel tells us the first thing we need now is the sum range. This is completely backwards from SUMIF, where in SUMIF the sum range was the last field that we entered. But here, and you'll understand why, we have to specify the sum range first. Well, that's our revenue field from G2 to G46. Again, I'm going to click in G46, hold down the Shift key and up arrow and the down arrow to select that range. As I copy this formula, I want to make sure that I'm always pointing to G2 to G46, so I'll hit the F4 key. Put the comma. Next, Excel says we want to find out what criteria range 1 is. Criteria range 1 in this case is going to be our list of regions. This time I can see A2, so I'll click in A2, Shift key and down to select the rest of my regions, and again, the F4 key. Next is the criteria. This is the region that we're looking for. If I hit up arrow key to move to the central region, put in a comma. Next, Excel is looking for criteria range 2, and you'll notice that in the tooltip, this is in square brackets, which means that criteria range 2 and criteria 2 are completely optional. Now, of course, I'm not sure why you'd be using SUMIFs if you only had one criteria range, but as you look further on in the function, the criteria range 3, criteria range 4, criteria range 5 are all optional. You can really stop after any pair of criteria range and criteria. Our next criteria range is the product column. That will be from B2 to B46. Because on my screen I can see B46, that's where I click first. Hold down the Shift key and up and then down to select B2 to B46. Hit the F4 key to put the absolute $signs in and then the comma. Now this time I do want to select the product which is to the left of the current cell, so I'll hit the left arrow to go over and select cell B60. At this point, I've entered enough data for this function to actually work, so I'll hit the closing parenthesis. Now, it's interesting to note that in this example, I'm summing based on 2 conditions, but Microsoft went completely overboard on this, and they now allow us to sum by over 50 conditions. Choose Control-Enter, and we have the total of sales to just the central region, ABC. Now, I'll copy this formula and paste it to the entire table. Okay, now when I pasted that value, I didn't get the result. Let's take a look back in our original formula to see exactly what's going wrong. I'll select the original cell and hit the F2 key to edit the formula. And this is a beautiful thing. When you have a formula that's wrong, Excel actually lights everything up in color, and so you can see how things are working. For example, G2 to G46 is in blue in my formula, and that range in column G2 to G46 is highlighted in blue. So we need to go through and figure out where this formula went wrong. It's probably my problem that I failed to put the right $signs in. And sure enough, I was pointing at the region in C59, but I wasn't smart enough to put the $signs in. Now let's think about exactly how those $signs have to work. In the central region, the regions are always in row 59, but as I copy the formula to the right, I need to be able to have C59 change to D59 and E59. So in this case, I specifically need to freeze the 59. I'm going to click into my formula and put the $sign only before the 59. The product is a completely different situation because it is always in column B. I need that B60 to always point to B, even as I copy it to the right, but I need to allow the B60 to change to B61 and B62. I'll click before the B and put a $sign in there. Now let's try this formula again. Of course, it worked fine in the first cell, so I still expect that I'm going to get the right answer, but when I copy the formula is where I'll find out whether or not it actually worked. Control-C to copy, select the whole table, and then Control-V to paste. There we go. We now have our result. We still want to test the result, so you see I have the 9 cells selected. I look down in my status bar in the lower right-hand corner, and sure enough, 530,746, I've accurately captured all of the revenue in the original table. Anytime you use any of these conditional sum functions, You want to make sure that you're getting the same total as the original data set. Lots of things could go wrong, lots of gotchas. For example, if you're missing a product, there's a brand new product you didn't expect, someone typed a product wrong, or even something as simple as having some trailing spaces after one of the products in the original data set can cause those numbers to be wrong. The SUMIFS function is one of 5 new functions that were added to Excel, added specifically in response to customer requests, and I think it's a great addition. Next time you have to do a conditional sum based on 2 fields, check out the SUMIFS function. Well, we have to be really thankful to Microsoft for giving us these great new functions, SUMIFS, COUNTIFS, AVERAGEIFS, and they're really perfect because you and I have upgraded to Excel 2007. The huge gotcha comes in if we're sharing this workbook with someone who hasn't upgraded. If we send this back to someone who's using Excel 2003 and they open it, their version of Excel will have no clue what the SUMIFS function is. That's a real problem. So we're just going to take a brief look here and look back to see how painful it used to be to solve this problem using Excel 2003.